about time.
So today's top five, I'm gonna say in general. In today's top five, I've been watching a lot of movies that have like the weirdest, most out of this world endings. So much so that I sit back at the end of these films and wonder, like, what did I just watch? Like, they literally had a plan and a plot that made sense, but by the time that they got to the end, everything didn't make sense anymore, and I walked away like, what do I take away from that? So in today's top five, I'm gonna say that it's gonna be the most weirdest endings, not just ambiguous, because a lot of people will say it's weird because it had an ambiguous ending, and I'm not talking about like Inception or Interstellar or you know, even Donnie Darko. Donnie Darko's weird and it really leaves you kind of like, what did I just watch? But I'll give that one a pass too. But this particular list is gonna have things where I'm like, you thought the plot was interesting, and then you got to the end and you're like, I don't get this anymore. Or like Hereditary, stuff like that. Anyway, so number five, I'm gonna go with Vivarium. And if you haven't seen Vivarium, I would actually suggest seeing Vivarium because it is a very interesting movie and it does keep you on the edge of your seat. But when it gets to the end, you're like, what was that? What was the point of this movie? It stars Jesse Eisenberg. It's him and his wife, newly married couple, trying to figure out what they're gonna do in life, if they're gonna have kids, and so on and so forth. So just as a kind of planning for the future, decide to go look for a house. They're gonna be parents, they're gonna look for a house. So they look for a house and they come across this dealer or this home dealer, where they take them off to a new property that's being built, a new neighborhood that's being built. They take them out there and then all of a sudden they get stranded. Now when they're stranded, they notice that everything in this whole neighborhood seems to be fake, almost like a backlot, but nothing, there's no escape to it. And then one day they're dropped off a baby. And this baby seems to grow up very, very fast, but doesn't seem to be like a regular human baby. I'm trying not to spoil the movie for you, but if we skip to the end, the end kind of reveals this whole underlying plot of who the people are that run the agency and the baby themselves. And all it is just seems to be like a cycle, and you don't get any further information outside of that. I know some of these movies are going to be new, so I'm trying not to spoil them, so it's going to be very vague descriptions of the end. And if I do get into a real description of the end, hey, spoiler alert right now. All right. But that one, it's like I said, all the way up to the end, and you're like, oh, okay, that's just what happens. So we're gonna go with number four. Number four was a movie I had watched and forgot, and then rewatched again this weekend. But it made me feel the same way. I was like, what was the movie? That's probably why. What was this movie about? Because that's probably why I forgot it the first time I watched it. And that's The Ritual. It's available on Netflix. I don't know who originally made the movie, and it seems to be a lot of British actors, so I don't know them specifically, and it seems to be a very low budget movie. Basically, the way the movie goes is that they're out for boys' night and they're out drinking, and one of the friends gets killed. The other friend was there when it happens during a robbery, a store robbery, and he doesn't do anything to prevent it. So as a way to celebrate that friend that died in this event, they decide to go hiking. And as every hiking movie goes, you get lost. You get lost in the forest and you can't get out, and then you find all the weird stuff in the forest that everybody knows is there but doesn't actually want to run into. Now, upon finding the weird stuff, and he keeps having these flashbacks back to his friend being murdered. How does this tie into the movie? I don't really know for sure. It seems like it deals with him kind of overcoming his cowardice in the moment when he lost his particular friend, but that doesn't stop him from losing the rest of his friends. And when we get to the movie of the thing, the entity or creature that's chasing them through the forest that they're trying to deal with, it gets all the way to the end where he escapes the forest and the thing doesn't leave the forest. And then he just kind of yells at it and then moves on about his day. And it leaves you where it's like, what did this movie tell me? He didn't prevent anybody from dying. He really didn't show much courage in it besides saving his own ass. And then he left and the thing's still out there. So I kind of walked away. I was like, what was the point of this particular movie? See it on Netflix, you'll probably feel the same way. Or maybe you'll think it's a masterpiece, because a few of these that I have on my list, a lot of people think, oh, they were a masterpiece and they were so smart and intelligent. I believe I'm smart and intelligent, but I'm done with these particular movies. Number three! All right. So number three, this is a movie I actually saw on Hulu, but I think it was a Shudder original movie as when it originally came out, but you can find it on Hulu right now. It's called Skinamarink. And Skinamarink is really a dream sequel, a dream esque type film. I'm gonna say it that way. It's got very, very little dialogue in it. So if you're a person who doesn't like movies with little dialogue, this ain't gonna be the movie for you. And it's shot kind of first person documentary, not first person, like third person documentary style. It's the best way I can say it because people are on screen a lot, but you hear some voices in the background, but like I said, not a lot of dialogue. And basically how it starts is that there are two children who wake up in the middle of the night after hearing some commotion that you don't actually see on screen. A lot of the camera work is kind of tilted the wrong way. It's like if somebody had a camera on in your house and nobody was actually filming, but it was just running the whole time. A lot of the things, so they kind of hear the things off screen. You don't even really get a chance to see the kids. And then they realize that their parents are missing. So they go and they keep thinking that their parents are going to return back. But as time goes on, days goes on, parents never actually return. So they have to kind of take care of themselves. Meanwhile, there's this scary, ominous entity in the background, kind of talking through them through the TV, kind of talking through them in dark spaces. They start to see hallucinations. So much so that where you get to a point, we're halfway through the film, you're like, I don't really understand what the point of this is. And you start guessing, like, are they dead? Is the parents dead? Are they lost? Are they in a coma? What is going on? And as soon as you get to a point where you kind of feel like I understand what's going on, they totally break the thought process that you had by showing you something real world. And you're like, I don't understand where this is going. And then the ending just kind of ends. And you never really understand what exactly you were watching. Once again, I would suggest this movie. It's interesting, but you will walk away from the film saying like, I don't know what the point was here. And it's too ambiguous for me to say, okay, you could look at it this way, you can look at it this way. You can look at this film about 15 different ways, and I know that's probably the definition of ambiguous, but in either case, it doesn't make you feel satisfied as far as what you really happened, because you may say, I look at it this way, but then you're also gonna say, I look at it 14 other different ways, and none of them are satisfying as endings. All right, so that's gonna bring me to number 2. All right, so number 2, I had to look down what I wrote down because I kind of changed this back and forth. I went with Barbarian. And Barbarian was one of those films that everybody loved. I hate this movie. This is the one movie on here where I'm not going to suggest that you go see it. But then again, you may be smarter than me. And you might see how smart and intelligent this film was, because I didn't get it. I absolutely hate this movie. It starts off with this woman coming into town to go to a job interview where she ends up staying at an Airbnb that somebody's already in. So that's a typical slasher film. You kind of know where you're going to go with this. That's not where this film goes. This film actually brings in Justin Long to kind of talk about his life and how much of a dirtbag he is, to kind of meet up in this movie for no particular reason. It's like his point of the movie was just no particular reason outside from when I had to read on it, is just to talk about like his misogyny, because he sexually abuses women all the time. But the woman, the lead in this film, I can't remember her name, I apologize for that. She kind of goes on this journey through this Airbnb and into dungeons, and then finding like backwoods incest monster people that somehow chase her out of the house. It's no longer about the house anymore. It's no longer about there being a victim in this house or in the city. It's about these incest monsters chasing her, for the mother incest monster to want to take her as a child, and then she runs it over. Like, it literally goes off the freaking rails. I don't know what they were trying to say specifically. When I looked up a little bit about it, it was really talking about like men taking advantage of women as far as with the incest, and then the Justin Long character, but they went the wrong way about it in order for somebody to really get that out of watching this particular movie. I know other people like it. It's got a good Rotten Tomato score. I hate this movie. I will never watch this movie again. Number 1! Sorry guys, I'm a little sick. Number 1, which is a movie I absolutely loved until they got to the end. And I would suggest it, and I would say just don't watch the end. The minute it goes off the rails, just stop watching. Just turn it off. Enjoy what it was up to that particular point. And that's The Substance. The Substance is a great movie to talk about how youth and sexuality is put on such a high level for most women to reach in media as celebrities and so on and so forth. And when you become an older actor, how you just kind of fade off into nothingness because you're not the hot new young thing. So Demi Moore stars in it, and Margaret Qualley, I think that's how you say her name. Demi Moore is wanting to revitalize her career. She sees that she's becoming like C-list, not important anymore, and somebody offers her this drug, which will give her youth again. So she takes the drug and becomes Margaret Qualley. I guess they try to say she's the same person, but it's just a younger version, but not specifically the same. Either way, it does that back and forth between age and youth, but so much so to where like they're two different people sharing the same body, or at least the same insides. Try not to spoil too much about it. But her youthfulness doesn't appreciate the age that took the substance for her to be here, and the age feels like she's being taken advantage of by the youthful version of herself. It's almost to the sense that when you're young, you don't even understand that you're gonna one time become old. I really love that. I got it, and so on and so forth, where they were kind of jeopardizing each other's lives just to maintain who they particularly were. It got to the end where they do the whole thing that's like, don't do this or something bad will happen, where the character always does the thing they say they're not supposed to do, where then another version of themselves appears, which is grotesque. And this grotesque thing, you could have ended the movie right there. Really could have ended it right there and says like, hey, this is the chase of youthfulness. But then they drug on with this particular movie with this monster still trying to be the Margaret Qualley version of it. And it seemed like, dude, you've gone too far. Stop now. And they did it all the way to the monster was killed, and then they had this thing where the face of the monster is still alive, and it just melts on the Walk of Fame star, which I guess was trying to say something, but not well enough for us in the audience, at least me, because I'm obviously dumb, in the audience to tell me what it's really saying. 90% of this movie is good. The other 10%, throw it away. All right, that's my top 5. Honorable mentions. I know I said, Biggie was Donnie Darko. Oh, Donnie Darko. You have to look up the end of Donnie Darko to understand Donnie Darko. And when you get the end of Donnie Darko, you understand what happened, but then you're kind of saying, like, what was the point? Literally, what was the point? Other honorable mentions I have on here are Under the Skin. Under the Skin, if you haven't seen Under the Skin, it's Scarlett Johansson. And Scarlett Johansson is an alien that takes a human skin. And then she goes through this thing of kind of like enticing men to come back so they could somehow process them and send them to their planet. But then she finds a level of humanity and still gets, I'm not going to end it for you. But it's interesting and weird. But I don't really know what it's trying to say. I kept guessing at what it was trying to say, but I really don't know what it was trying to say. Other things that I had on there, I had The Green Knight. And I know The Green Knight is based on a book. And this thing is shot very, very well. I really love what they did with like the cinematography in this film. But a lot of the things they were trying to get, they were thinking that the audience was smarter. I'm stupid. Or as at least when I showed this to other people, they got it and I didn't get it. Were smarter and smarter than what they really were, because they're telling you things or showing you things, but not really telling you things. And I know that's one of the rules of film, is to show people and not tell people. But sometimes you need to tell people. And when it gets to the end, you're lost unless you had read the book or you go and look it up like I did to kind of understand. And then it makes sense, and then you really do love the film. But like going into the first time, you're really kind of like, eh. Other one that I had on here was Malignant, and I know that's Manny's favorite. It's actually good. I feel like it's a bad B movie that has a great twist in it, and it really kind of gives you a sense of like, I was ready to turn this film off until the twist happened, and then after the twist happened, I'm still ready to turn this film off, outside of the fact that I just want to see the end. All right, so those are my top 5 and honorable mentions. I want you to put your top 5s in the comments below. Like I said, don't give me ambiguous stuff where like somebody could say it can mean this, it can mean this, and this movie does make sense. I mean stuff to where like they just go completely off the rails, and you're like, whoa. That don't make sense anymore. It just completely doesn't make sense on there. What's another one that I was thinking about with the dude from True Blood, where him and the horror girl, I'm really bad with names, where he kept dying over and over again. I'll probably put it as my own comment and make a new list and just add that one on there as another honorable mention, whatever the case. Put your top 5 in the comments below, and if it's the first time you're on the channel, make sure you subscribe as well as click the notification button so that way you're aware of all the other videos that we do on the channel. Hopefully I'll be back on top 5s a little bit more. It's Christmas time. Maybe I'll do some Christmas next time. All right, you guys take care.